Iranian state-linked accounts have released a propaganda-style clip portraying a Fattah missile strike on a U.S. carrier, an image meant to deter, not proof of real capability. The footage, published by Iranian state-linked outlets, purports to show the Fattah ballistic missile striking an American aircraft carrier as a U.S. carrier strike group heads toward the Middle East. The clip claims American defense systems would struggle against what Iran describes as its new generation of weapons, though such claims cannot be confirmed without actual combat data. The release coincides with President Donald Trump confirming a major American naval deployment focused on Iran. U.S. officials say warships equipped with advanced missile defense systems are arriving in the region, while Iranian commanders warn that any strike would make U.S. bases across the region what they describe as legitimate targets. The timing of the clip's release appears deliberately calibrated to coincide with the approaching American fleet. The propaganda clip makes specific claims about Iranian missile capabilities and alleged vulnerabilities in American naval defenses. Iran has claimed the Fattah reaches hypersonic speeds, though independent experts have publicly questioned whether it meets the strict true hypersonic definition that requires sustained maneuvering capability at extreme velocities. The video references U.S. Aegis ship radars, often discussed publicly as the SPY-6 family, and Standard missiles. The narration argues, without evidence, that maneuvering at high speed could complicate intercept calculations for defending ships. The clip claims this approach would be ineffective against missiles that can alter trajectory rapidly, though such technical assertions represent Iranian messaging rather than independently verified analysis. It should be noted that propaganda clips are designed to project capability and influence adversary calculations rather than to provide accurate technical assessments. The actual effectiveness of both Iranian missiles and American defense systems would only be determined in actual combat conditions, which neither side claims to want. The propaganda clip also describes what it calls a saturation attack scenario, in which numerous inexpensive projectiles would be launched simultaneously alongside heavier missiles. According to the narration, this would overwhelm defensive systems. The clip claims that even if defenders intercept a high percentage of incoming targets, expensive defensive munitions would be exhausted by cheaper attacking drones. The clip characterizes this as an asymmetrical equation in which aircraft carriers transform from offensive platforms into vulnerable targets. The narration concludes by claiming adversaries have already lost the mathematical calculation before any conflict begins. Again, these represent claims made in Iranian propaganda rather than independently verified military analysis. Such clips serve multiple purposes in Iranian strategic communications. They attempt to demonstrate capability to domestic and international audiences. They seek to deter potential American military action by emphasizing the costs that would follow, and they project confidence during periods of heightened tension. Whether the capabilities described are real or exaggerated is a matter of ongoing debate among military analysts. The propaganda clip's release comes as the USS Abraham Lincoln has altered course from the South China Sea and is now sailing toward the Middle East with its strike group, according to U.S. officials. U.S. Navy destroyers typically carry Tomahawk cruise missiles, and officials have described the deployment as bringing major strike and air defense capability to the region. U.S. officials confirm the ships are equipped with the Aegis combat system, designed to intercept ballistic and cruise missiles, as well as aerial threats. U.S. officials and defense reporting describe ongoing work and testing to improve intercept options against advanced maneuvering threats, though real-world performance against a true hypersonic maneuvering strike remains uncertain given the limited combat data available. Despite American confidence in defense systems, Iran's clip openly challenges Washington's capabilities, portraying a direct hit on the carrier as the outcome. The contrast between American assessments of their defenses and Iranian claims of their vulnerability reflects the broader uncertainty that characterizes any potential military confrontation. Neither side can be certain how their systems would perform until they are actually tested in combat. In a separate release, Iran's Revolutionary Guard has published footage of the USS Abraham Lincoln, accompanied by what the IRGC describes as a direct message. There is no benefit to hiding, the IRGC stated, according to Iranian media reports. Iran says the footage is not new, but the message is intended to signal readiness rather than document a current operation. The Revolutionary Guard says it is prepared to strike U.S. aircraft carriers if conflict breaks out, according to statements reported by Iranian outlets and confirmed by the Associated Press. The IRGC has pointed to attacks carried out by Iran-aligned forces, including Yemen's Houthis, as precedent for operations against naval vessels. The Houthis have previously conducted operations against commercial and military shipping in the Red Sea, demonstrating capability against maritime targets, according to incident reports. The warning comes as American warships move toward the Middle East amid rising regional tensions. The combination of propaganda clips, surveillance footage, and explicit statements creates a messaging strategy designed to emphasize Iranian capabilities and readiness while the American fleet approaches. On Saturday, the head of Iran's Revolutionary Guard Corps escalated the rhetoric further. IRGC Commander General Mohammad Pakpour said the force is, according to his statement, more ready than ever, with their finger on the trigger. Pakpour said the IRGC is prepared to carry out any order issued by Iran's supreme leadership, according to remarks reported by Iranian news outlets and confirmed by the Associated Press. The general also warned the United States and Israel to avoid what he called any miscalculation. The warning reflects Iranian concerns that the current military buildup could lead to conflict through accident or misunderstanding rather than deliberate decision. In an environment of heightened military readiness on all sides, the margin for error shrinks and the consequences of miscalculation grow more severe. Iranian commanders have also issued warnings about the scope of potential retaliation. Ali Abdullahi has warned that any attack would turn every U.S. base in the region into what he described as a legitimate target, according to Iranian media reports. Such statements suggest that Iran frames any potential response as extending throughout the region rather than limited to direct exchanges. According to Iran International, citing two sources described as informed, Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei has relocated to a heavily fortified underground facility in Tehran amid the escalating tensions. The report describes the complex as a wartime facility with interconnected tunnels. The report adds that Khamenei's third son, Masoud Khamenei, has assumed day-to-day control of the Supreme Leader's office, acting as the main channel of communication with Iran's executive leadership. These reports have not been independently confirmed, and Iranian authorities have not commented on the Supreme Leader's location. If accurate, the reported relocation would signal that Iranian leadership is taking the possibility of American military action seriously and preparing accordingly. Such preparations could be interpreted as either defensive prudence or as indication that Tehran expects the situation may escalate. The report comes as U.S. Navy officials have confirmed that the aircraft carrier USS Abraham Lincoln and multiple guided missile destroyers are currently positioned in the Indian Ocean and expected to reach the Middle East in the coming days. Additional air defense systems are also reportedly being repositioned to the region. Britain has also entered the picture as regional tensions intensify. The UK has announced it will deploy RAF Eurofighter Typhoon jets to Qatar following a request from Doha, according to British defense announcements. The deployment adds another layer to the military buildup occurring across the region as various parties position forces and assets. Behind the scenes, diplomatic and military coordination is reportedly intensifying among potential coalition partners. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff has met with Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to discuss Gaza and broader regional issues, according to reports. The talks included senior White House advisors and focused on next steps in continued regional cooperation, according to sources cited by media outlets. Israeli media reports suggest the United Arab Emirates, Jordan, and the United Kingdom could support U.S. military operations if conflict erupts. That support would reportedly include intelligence sharing, logistics, and participation in intercepting Iranian missiles or drones. However, as noted in previous reports, the UAE has also indicated it would not allow its territory to be used for what it termed aggressive attacks against Iran, creating an apparent tension in reported positions. President Donald Trump has publicly confirmed the naval deployment using language that emphasizes the scale of American military power being directed toward the region. "We're watching Iran," Trump said. "You know, we have a lot of ships going that direction just in case. We have a big flotilla going in that direction, and we'll see what happens. It's a big force. We have a big force going toward Iran." Trump combined military positioning with claims regarding events inside Iran. "I stopped 837 hangings on Thursday," Trump claimed. "They would have been dead. And I said, if you hang those people, you're going to be hit harder than you've ever been hit. It'll make what we did to your Iran nuclear look like peanuts." An hour before this horrible thing was going to take place, they canceled it. Iranian sources have not confirmed Trump's account of these events. Trump's comments combine direct military positioning with conditional language, suggesting preference for avoiding conflict. "But we have an armada," Trump continued. "We have a massive fleet heading in that direction, and maybe we won't have to use them. We'll see." The conditional phrasing leaves open various possibilities while emphasizing American military capability. The external standoff comes against the backdrop of significant internal developments inside Iran. Weeks of protests sparked by economic hardship and a sharp collapse of the Iranian rial have spread across the country since late December, according to multiple reports. Authorities have responded with security measures and what activists describe as extensive internet restrictions, limiting the flow of information. The U.S.-based human rights activist news agency, known as HRA, has reported casualty figures from the unrest, though Iranian authorities have not confirmed these numbers. Addressing an emergency session of the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, UN High Commissioner Volker Turk said thousands, including children, had been killed during the unrest. He urged Iran to end what he called brutal repression and raised concerns about due process issues. Amid these developments, Iran has acknowledged diplomatic backing from India. Mohammad Fattah, Iran's ambassador to New Delhi, publicly thanked India for opposing a UN Human Rights Council resolution aimed at scrutinizing Iran's record. He called India's vote principled and firm, highlighting that Iran maintains international support despite Western pressure. The Iranian propaganda clip and IRGC statements come alongside parallel messaging from Tehran's regional allies. Yemen's Houthi forces have released an ambiguous video showing a ship in flames with a single word caption, "Soon." According to AP and Iran International, the clip does not name specific targets, but analysts describe it as a warning that the group could resume Red Sea shipping operations. The Houthis previously launched what reports describe as over 100 attacks on vessels in the Red Sea, according to maritime security organizations. Those operations disrupted global shipping and forced major companies to reroute around Africa, demonstrating the group's capability to affect international commerce far beyond the immediate conflict zone. The Soon video suggests the Houthis are prepared to resume operations if the situation with Iran escalates, though the actual timing and targets remain unspecified. The message creates additional pressure on military planners who must consider not only direct Iranian responses, but also actions by aligned groups positioned throughout the region. Iraq's Kataib Hezbollah has issued a statement framing itself as a call to prepare if Iran is attacked. The Iran-aligned armed group declared its readiness to enter any future conflict in defense of the Islamic Republic, according to the statement released through official channels and reported by regional media. The group portrayed Iran as what it termed a fortress for the Muslim world and warned adversaries of severe consequences if hostilities begin. The statement used extreme rhetoric about the fate of enemies, though such language should be understood as the group's own messaging rather than confirmed operational capacity. The statement also suggested what it called extreme operations, though no independent evidence indicates immediate operational planning. The reference signals that Kataib Hezbollah and similar groups frame any potential conflict as existential from their perspective, justifying maximum commitment in their rhetoric. Combined with the Houthi video and Iranian propaganda releases, the messaging creates a picture of parallel warnings across Tehran's regional network. The regional picture has been complicated by statements from Gulf states that host American military facilities. The United Arab Emirates has reportedly indicated that it would not allow its territory, waters, or airspace to be used for what it termed aggressive attacks against Iran, a position that complicates logistical considerations for potential American military operations. This position creates apparent tension with Israeli media reports suggesting UAE support for U.S. operations. The contradiction may reflect the complex position facing Gulf states, which maintain security relationships with the United States, while also having significant economic and diplomatic ties with Iran. These countries understand that any regional conflict would affect them directly. Iran has called on regional states to deny the United States certain basing rights for offensive operations, and some appear to be responding with cautionary statements. The prospect of Gulf states placing conditions on American military access represents a factor in U.S. planning and reflects the degree to which regional actors are seeking to navigate between competing pressures. The escalating tensions have also affected civilian aviation, with major international airlines canceling flights to Israel and key Gulf destinations in what appeared to be coordinated suspensions. KLM, Air France, British Airways, Lufthansa, and other carriers pulled back services, while Air Canada and United Airlines also canceled flights. Airlines rarely make such moves lightly given the financial costs involved. The synchronized nature of the cancellation suggests access to shared intelligence assessments indicating elevated risk levels. When major carriers ground their fleets to a region simultaneously, it sends a message that commercial entities with access to sensitive information believe the situation has become genuinely concerning. At Ben Gurion Airport in Israel, all international operations were reportedly grounded for a period. Israeli airspace, usually busy with civilian and military traffic, appeared significantly reduced. The disruption affected thousands of travelers while sending a signal about the perceived level of risk across the region. The propaganda clip's emphasis on saturation attacks and asymmetric tactics reflects an understanding that has guided Iranian military doctrine for decades, according to analysts. Unable to match American conventional military power, Iran has developed approaches designed to impose costs that adversaries would find significant, even if they cannot defeat U.S. forces in direct confrontation. This includes missiles and drones capable of striking targets throughout the region, according to military analysts, the ability to affect maritime choke points like the Strait of Hormuz, and networks of allied groups positioned to conduct operations from multiple directions. The propaganda clip attempts to visualize this doctrine for both domestic and international audiences. Whether the capabilities described in Iranian propaganda reflect actual military capacity or represent strategic exaggeration remains a matter of debate among military analysts. What is clear is that Iran seeks to project an image of capability that would make potential adversaries think twice before initiating military action. The clip serves this deterrence purpose regardless of its technical accuracy. Despite the military positioning and strong rhetoric from various parties, diplomatic channels reportedly remain open. Both Iranian and American officials have indicated that they prefer diplomatic resolution to military conflict, even as they prepare for various scenarios. The question is whether these channels can produce outcomes acceptable to all parties before military dynamics create their own momentum. The core issues driving the situation: Iran's regional relationships, its nuclear program, American sanctions and military pressure, internal developments in Iran, have proven resistant to diplomatic resolution for decades. Previous attempts at agreements have not produced lasting results, leaving various parties skeptical that negotiations can succeed. For now, the propaganda clips, military deployments, and explicit warnings continue as each side attempts to strengthen its position. Whether this represents the prelude to conflict or another cycle of escalation followed by de-escalation remains to be seen. The region watches closely as American warships approach and Iranian messaging intensifies. Analysts recommend distinguishing between propaganda messaging and confirmed military capabilities when assessing the current situation. The Iranian clip makes dramatic claims about weapon effectiveness and American vulnerabilities, but such claims are designed for psychological effect rather than technical accuracy. U.S. officials and defense reporting describe ongoing work and testing to improve intercept options against advanced maneuvering threats. But real-world performance in combat against such weapons remains uncertain. The actual outcome of any military exchange would depend on factors that neither side can fully predict. This uncertainty is itself a source of deterrence, as neither side can be confident of the results. The propaganda clip, the surveillance footage, and the explicit statements from Iranian commanders all serve to project capability and resolve. Whether this projection accurately reflects Iranian military power or represents strategic exaggeration is a question that analysts continue to debate. What is certain is that both sides are signaling commitment as the situation continues. The situation represents a convergence of multiple pressures: external military positioning, internal developments in Iran, regional ally messaging, and economic stakes involving global energy and shipping. Each element influences the others, creating a complex dynamic that defies simple prediction. Iran's propaganda clip represents one element of this broader picture, an attempt to project capability and deter attack at a moment when American military power is physically approaching the region. The clip's claims may be exaggerated, but the underlying message is clear. Iran intends to frame any conflict as carrying severe costs for any adversary that initiates hostilities. The coming days and weeks will determine whether the current trajectory leads to conflict, diplomatic engagement, or continued standoff. Military movements, rhetorical exchanges, and behind-the-scenes communications will all shape the outcome. For now, the region remains on edge as American warships approach, and Iranian messaging continues to emphasize readiness and resolve. The propaganda clip portraying the Fattah missile striking an American carrier represents Tehran's message to Washington. They intend to project that the costs of military action would be severe. Whether this message succeeds in deterring American action or instead contributes to escalation dynamics remains to be seen. Iran's allies have echoed messages of readiness through their own communications: the Houthi soon video, the Kataib Hezbollah statement, and various warnings from commanders throughout the region. The parallel messaging creates the impression of coordinated readiness, suggesting that any attack on Iran could trigger responses from multiple directions. The United States continues its naval deployment while maintaining that it prefers diplomatic solutions. The gap between military positioning and diplomatic rhetoric creates uncertainty that may be deliberate but also increases risks of miscalculation. As the USS Abraham Lincoln approaches the Middle East, and Iranian propaganda emphasizes claims about the vulnerability of such vessels, the standoff enters what observers describe as a tense phase with limited room for error.